You seem to be talking about the different generations as being completely mutually exclusive. And I think as Sir Luck, sorry, I can't get used to calling you that, Mr. Teo has said, you have people who are actually Gen X or baby boomers who are displaying or demonstrating traits of Gen Yers. And I think similarly, Gen Yers, when you're hanging around working with baby boomers and Gen Xers, you might also somehow, it's a dynamic growth process. But I think so far what we've talked about mostly is, okay, what can Gen Y do, right? But what about employers? What do you hope to see in perhaps employers' human resource management policies, in the way they grow, or to embrace perhaps not just this generation of people, not just this age group of people, but a changing face of the worker?
Right now we are struggling with getting the employers to employ the elderly workers, right? So there will be an issue, and Gen Ys, you're going to get old also. So I would say that for Gen Y, if you are the boss or manager and employers, you have a heart for the elderly as well. I mean, they have the skill set, the wisdom and experience that you can tap on. I always find that to be able to bridge it is, you must have the will and intent to do it, because both different generation do offer and complement each other. The younger generation, of course, the dynamism and having the energy to implement changes. But the older generation gives you the experience and wisdom. Older generation is one thing that I avoid is not to be a bit more lao huang mai gua and continue to say that this is the way to do it and all, but allow the change to take place, and the younger generation to be able to accept not necessarily criticism, but lessons and learning points along the way and in history. And one of the best examples I can give is Minister Mentor Lee Kuan Yew. I think I had so many chances to interact with him and talk to him. I can never imagine that he actually told me one day, and I won't quote in specific the policy, but there was a policy that he implemented, and we still have the policy today. And he says that, maybe it's time to change this policy. I know this policy was quite dear to his heart, because he knows that it's the right thing to do. But today he's telling me, saying, maybe we should change it. And we were afraid to change it. The younger ones were taken aback, said, change it? I don't think we really want to do that. But he said, no, if the society has changed, globalization calls for it, you change it. And that's how he thinks, and I think he's the biggest change agent. And I think it's up to us to be able to adapt to it as well. So both elderly and both younger and older generation can come together and work together, because I think they complement one another.
But you talked about the importance of retention policies especially for the younger group of people in that sense. You mentioned about how employers should be more flexible, perhaps in keeping people who don't want to go. We're talking about older workers, for example. But what about retention policies for young people who seem to want to make that transition, or who seem to be a little impatient, who want to move from, one workplace to another? How do they make it more attractive, since I believe we have a good number of employers here, representatives of these companies?
I think they mentioned it at the very beginning, work-life balance, right? So, of course, you've got to give them space for the personal space. At the same time, give them a lot of empowerment and ownership. Allow them to challenge themselves and to take on a little bit more ambitious project. It's whether you want to give them that first big break or that chance or not. But it's not abusing their energy level or dynamism, but it's allowing them to shine where possible. And if they shine and they accomplish and they meet certain targets and achieved, I think it's important to reward them appropriately, whether it's promotion or such, and doesn't have to wait. You reward them if they are a shining star, reward them as quickly as you can, and allow them to continue to go up the ladder. I think the problem today is that many of the hierarchy and the organization charts has certain legacy. It's actually very difficult for sometimes the younger people to just continue to progress unless you have an environment and an organization that appreciates that the result counts and the ability counts, and they allow them to have the stake and a share in the company and allow them to grow very quickly. I think that's the part I think some of the elite or really, really bright young people are looking for. And I think for the rest, on the average, most young people will be looking at that as well. Be given a chance to be able to up their own value, especially own market value as well. So I always tell my staff is that whatever I'm challenging you to do is to increase your market value so that you can be employed elsewhere as well, not just employed in the government sector, but to be able to employ in the private sector market as well.
And I think there's also mentioned that Gen Yers tend to have a stronger sort of social consciousness. So would you say, this, I suppose, growing sense of importance that CSR programs play in companies has gained a lot more prominence now?
Yeah, the social aspect is important because quite a lot of, I would say that for young people, no matter what, they are also pragmatic and they are practical. First thing first, to keep their job, have a career, and also be able to feed the family, put food on the table. I think these are basic things that they will still be looking out for. But allowing them to have a work-life balance within the company itself is a real challenge, but you can do that. For example, I don't know whether it's a bold challenge, but I implement it myself. I give a 2 weeks, paid leave. In fact, it's extra leave on top of the usual annual leave to go on a mission trips overseas if they want to. So if they take on a voluntary project and it takes about a week and they can just go overseas and do it. And it's on their own or in a group, they can apply for it and then they go do it. That is something I hope that they will feel motivated and say that this company really takes care of me, takes care of my social needs and all, and I'm actually willing to work for this company. So I think this is whether you want to pay that smaller price for, getting a return of a loyalty that you need for retention.